Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is September 15th, 2023, and we are getting into the volume 158 of me answering your immigration related questions. As always, before beginning this video, I'm gonna mention I am not an immigration attorney. This is not legal advice. All the information provided in these videos on this channel are directly from official government sources like USAS and of course the Department of State with their visa bulletin. So let's start with the very first question comment from Denise. Denise, thank you very much for another comment. As you can see, Denise is one of the top commenters on this channel. So Denise says, "Hi sir, can I know the type of questions they normally ask during an I-130 interview? And we half of the month and no new visa bulletin yet. Is there any problem?" So Denise, great questions. Thanks for asking. I'm gonna start with your second question. I don't know. It is taking a little bit long. Honestly, the October visa bulletin should have been out. Typically is out by now, but as you can see, still nothing. Still just a September. But let's wait a little bit more. If not this week, then I would say definitely next week we're gonna be getting the new visa bulletin. I don't think there are any problems. It's just sometimes depending on how quickly they prepare those reports, how quickly they finish up the calculation that is required to provide the new visa bulletin. It looks like it does take sometimes longer, sometimes less. Now, to address your question regarding the I-130 interview. So, a really good question. So what you were expecting from the interview, right? You were expecting, first of all, for the consul, whoever is taking the interview, whoever is at the U.S. Embassy asking you questions, you were expecting him or her to establish your intent to immigrate to the United States of America. How is it done? All right. For example, if, let's say I'm a beneficiary and I come into the embassy and I am asked questions like, so when are you planning to go once you get the visa? Are you planning to sell everything here in this country? What kind of job are you planning to do in the United States of America? What are you planning to do in general in the United States of America? Which state you're gonna go to? Which address you're gonna live at? If I'm struggling to answer these questions, it is showing that I really am not planning anything. I'm not planning my immigration to the United States of America. I'm not really, thinking about it. I'm not making any preparations, nothing like this. And of course, although you should not be making any serious preparations like selling off all your stuff and having an intent to immigrate, it is very important because after all, you are applying for an immigrant visa. So you do have to demonstrate that intent to immigrate. Things like, learning English language, for example. Things like, thinking which state you're gonna live in. Are you going to live with the petitioner? Are you not going to live with the petitioner? What are the plans? At least basic understanding of where you're going and what you're planning to do shows that you are ready for your immigration and you want to do that. It's not something that you are really like, oh, I'm planning to immigrate to the United States. I'm just not realizing that, it's something that is intentional. All right. So that's number one. Number two, of course, you can expect questions to re-verify the information that was provided throughout the whole I-130 process with USAS, with the NVC. So it can be questions like, regarding the financial documents, regarding your relationship with the petitioner, especially a lot of times, I know you're in F1 category, so it's pretty straightforward to establish their relationship because, it's parent inviting a child and all you're doing to establish their relationship is showing the birth certificate. Pretty much that's really it. But in situations where it is spouse petitioning for a spouse, then the questions are a little bit more elaborate to establish that the relationship is real deal, right? Because there's a lot of immigration fraud whenever it comes to marriages, as you can understand. Which you don't have to worry about. This is just really for everyone who's watching this video. It's kind of like a side information. And that's really it, just general understanding of the process, general understanding. Because, if they ask you stuff like, show me the tax returns or something like this, and you're not familiar with what tax returns are, again, it is a lack of it shows the lack of understanding of how life is here in the United States of America, and that's something that every immigrant, potential immigrant that is planning to immigrate here needs to do. You need to be familiar with these things, at least the documents that you're providing. You need to be familiar with what those documents are. You know, if they're asking for tax returns, you should know that, okay, so this is tax returns, which, you know, you file every year your taxes by whatever deadline, April 1st, I think it is. And you have to file it every year. You're showing your income, you pay the tax on the income. And that's what these documents represent, basically, that those kind of statements or the bank statements. What do they represent, you know? So this is what Consul basically is trying to establish. Again, as you can see, it's not a difficult questions at all, you know, especially if you really, you know, took your time to understand everything. It's not hard questions at all. But I have seen, personally, I have seen people that had a little bit of complicated interviews because they didn't even, you know, they didn't bother at all really doing any kind of research, and it was not good. It was not good. Actually, the interview in one situation was actually rescheduled because the person did not know what tax returns are, and they did not know that you have to file taxes in the United States of America. So it's really common sense. So as long as you are, you know, common sense, you should be fine. They're not hard questions. Just show that you really are, you know, interested. You really do want to come to the United States of America. You really do want to live here, and you will do good. I'm sure you will do good, Dennis, because you got documentarily qualified on your first submission. I'll never forget that. You did good. So I think you're gonna, without any problems, you're gonna nail that interview. Okay, let's move on to the next question from Shahid Iqbal YZ80J, category F4, so siblings of US citizens. Priority date December 2005, state Pakistan. Documentarily qualified 9 October 2020. When my interview will be scheduled? Thanks. All right, let's take a look. Looks like you've been waiting for a very, very long time now. I think you're very close. Let's take a look. So your priority date is in December 2005. Since you're already documentarily qualified, we're going to look at the graph A, final action dates, which shows us the basically, you know, the whole length of the backlog that you're waiting for the availability of the immigrant visa. So F4 right now is on April 2007, which is 2 years past, almost 2 years, because you're December. So you're December 2005, so almost 2006. So it's a year and 4 months roughly past your priority date. So your priority date has been current now for a year and like 3-4 months, which is really a long time waiting past the priority date, considering that you're already documentarily qualified. So I am thinking that you're experiencing the same issue that a lot of people that I get comments from on this channel from Pakistan, because the US Embassy in Islamabad is extremely busy. So if few options you can do. You know, your immigrant visa is already definitely available. The only delay you're experiencing is because of the US Embassy in Islamabad, and they're not able, you know, I mean, it's probably, you know, the interview is probably already scheduled. It's just scheduled far out, so you don't know when it was scheduled for, because they can only announce the interview like 60 days in some cases, and in most cases only 30 days before the actual interview date. So let's say if your interview is scheduled for December 1st of 2023, which is, you know, a little over, 2 months? You know, you're not gonna find out until November 1st, 2023, 30 days before the actual interview date, because you have to do the medical examination within 30 days. So a few things that you can do, a few things. The very first thing I would recommend, reach out to the US Embassy in Islamabad and tell them that you're already documentarily qualified, your immigrant visa is already available, your priority date is current, and it has been current for over a year. And ask them when the interview was scheduled for. Don't be upset if they don't give you that information. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. If they do, great. You're gonna know when your interview is, even if it's, you know, 3-4 months from now. At least you're not gonna be in the air just wondering when it's gonna happen, right? So that's number one. Number two, you can submit a public inquiry with the NVC. they don't do a lot. You can just you do it basically just for the fact if you ever do need to seek more help from whether immigration attorney or petitioner here trying to get help from local elected officials. You have that record of submitting an inquiry to NBC saying, look, I reached out here, I reached out there, and nothing. Please help me. So that's number two, which again, not really going to do anything for you, because most of the times NBC replies with boilerplate stuff saying that, oh yeah, just wait, just keep waiting. All right. Number three is you can request, and I would recommend doing that, you can request an expedited processing. Because your visa, your priority date is current and you are already documentarily qualified, you are eligible to request expedited processing. I have a video on this channel on how to request expedited processing with NBC. Give it a shot, try it, it might work. And then the very last thing, which it's not really my recommendation or anything like this, but it is an option, and I've heard some people doing it, trying to see if you can potentially, if let's say you reach out to an embassy in Islamabad and they say, oh, we don't know, we couldn't schedule it yet, or something along those lines, you find out that it's not scheduled yet. I've heard people from this channel commenting they are seeking U.S. embassies in other countries, in nearby countries, rescheduling the interview from Islamabad to another, to somewhere in another country where it's not too far from you. Again, it's logistics, it's expense, time, money, for sure, but it might work because other countries, U.S. embassies in other countries nearby might not be as busy as the one in Islamabad. So you do have some options, and you are already a year and 3 months past. So I would say your interview should be really, really close. But again, I am not familiar with exactly how crazy things are in Islamabad embassy, U.S. embassy in Islamabad. So, you would have to do a little bit digging, a little bit calling around, a little bit of finding out, and maybe potentially, if you can ask around, neighbors, friends, relatives, whatever, if someone has heard of someone who is, been waiting for immigrant visa interview on I-130, and how long they waited for past the availability of their immigrant visa. That might be helpful as well, because if other people are waiting for 2 years after the priority date is current, that's a good estimate for you to kind of see where you're at and how long more you will be waiting for. So I hope you can figure it out. Once you do, please come back to this channel, and I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, will be interested to know the progress of your case. And I hope you get your interview soon. Okay, moving further to Halim Arizwan 152. Useful. I'm glad you found this useful. Tell some people suggest story should short. So I'm assuming suggestion to make the story short. It really depends. It really depends on how you want to play it. If you want to take on more, I would say burden, honestly. I think that's what it is. Burden and responsibility of having a tougher interview, then you can keep your story short. In fact, you can even not provide the story at all. You can just type in a little paragraph, and you can paste the same paragraph that you pasted into the asylum application. Personally, I would not recommend doing that, because yes, it does make it much easier to submit the asylum application, much faster, for sure, because you don't have to work on those 3-4 pages of details. But it will make the interview way harder, because now you don't have that template in front of you of which you will be going to the interview, and it will be questions all over the place. Your information will be all over the place. Your chronology will be all over the place. You definitely don't want to do that. I think it's not a good strategy. You can, but I would not suggest that. I would say much easier is to have a separate list of chronology, just the events, and having 3-4 pages of a statement written out, very nice, very clear by yourself, explaining all of the details, and then, you know, just going off of it, because, you know, you got to keep in mind most of the times whenever you're, you know, applying for asylum, you're waiting for that interview, you know, different amount of time, you know, and sometimes you wait pretty long. So if you have, you know, if you had 2-3 years passed since the events that caused you to come here and request asylum, that is a long time. That is a long time, and you might be blurry on the dates, you might be blurry on the events, on what happened, and that is a huge potential for some, you know, problems. So really, it is up to you. It is up to you. If you want to keep it short, you can. It makes the application easier initial, but it makes the interview harder. So up to you. Moving further to Abraham Musa, 44. I-130 CR1, so conditional resident, immediate relative category. Hi sir, was documentar, I guess it's DQ, not DF, documentarily qualified in 26 April 2023. Congratulations. For immediate relative, how long am I going to wait? Thanks, Ibrahim from Ghana. Ibrahim, thank you for your question. Really appreciate it. Congratulations on being documentarily qualified. It's a huge milestone. Really huge milestone. I mean, once you pass the documentary qualification, at that point it's really just patience, you know, waiting for that interview to be scheduled. But you have been documentarily qualified on April, so you are already documentarily qualified. Your immigrant visa is already available because you're in immediate relative category. Typically it can take about 6 months for processing, for administrative processing, for the interview to be scheduled and for you to know when the interview is scheduled. I've seen cases taking, you know, 9 months, 12 months, a little bit over 12 months. I've seen some cases for immediate relative category. Now, you do again have some options, just like I was describing earlier. You can reach out to the US Embassy in Ghana, ask them, say, hey, I'm immediate relative category, my immigrant visa is available, I was already documentarily qualified. I'm calling to see if you can tell me when my interview was scheduled. If it's possible, I would really appreciate it. Just be nice, be professional. Don't be upset if they don't give you that information, because it is at their discretion that they provide this information. So if they don't, just say, okay, that's not a problem at all. Okay, you can definitely submit an expedited processing because you are documentarily qualified and your immigrant visa is available if you want to do that. So you do have some options, but like I said, you most likely do still have some time. Possibly, maybe by the end of this year, you might find out your interview date. But I'm thinking more realistically, you are looking at the beginning of next year, depending on how busy the U.S. Embassy is at Ghana. So good luck with that. Hopefully it doesn't take too long for you. Once you do get your interview scheduled, please come back to this channel and let us know that it was scheduled. You know, I'm sure a lot of people would be happy for you, and I personally would. You know, it's good to hear questions, but it's really nice to see the resolution of all of these things. You know, you hear somebody getting interview, you hear somebody getting visa, you hear somebody becoming documentarily qualified, and it's like, okay, good. You know, things are moving along. That's good. Okay, let's move on to the next question from Flopan Chiagalo. Probably mispronounced that, sorry about that. 4429. If I work in Hilton, in employee address, should I put the headquarter Hilton or the address of the Hilton that I actually work? Okay, so if it's employee address, then it's you. You are the employee, so you will have to put your address. But if you're asking for employer address, then you definitely, I would recommend putting the, since it's Hilton. So if they do need to figure out the headquarters, they can definitely do it without a problem. So I would recommend actually posting the address of the place where you actually work, of the Hilton that you actually work in. But again, it kind of depends, because you're asking a question on the form I-130. So sounds like you are doing a petition for somebody, and in those petitions really doesn't really matter as much. I would say this is more would be a kind of a concern If we are talking about, like, for example, a work-based visa, whether immigrant or non-immigrant, especially like a petition, in those situations, yes, it's important to distinguish where you put the corporate address, where you put, the actual facility where you're working at address. That's when it matters. But in I-130, it doesn't really matter. If you put corporate, not big deal. But here you can definitely put where you actually work, and it's definitely gonna be fine. Okay, let me post the answer here, and we're gonna move on to the next comment really quickly. Ahmed Adnan says, thank you so much. You're very welcome, Ahmed. I'm glad you found this helpful. Moving further to Medina Mariam 6786. Hello sir, I'm citizen and my husband got DS5535 form on his interview and didn't get visa. Okay. I haven't had anyone yet mentioning the DS5535, and I was actually wondering. So DS, let me read the rest of the comment. After that, he immediately submitted that form. That's good, and it's been 15 days, but he still got no answer or response from U.S. Embassy. What can I do? Is there any way to do in this situation, or should I go to the federal court and sue them? Okay, so I definitely would not recommend taking such drastic actions just yet. I would say at least give it 30 days before taking any kind of action. Once the 30 days pass, reach out first reach out directly to the US Embassy. You definitely don't want to, because if you do some drastic actions and go above them right away, you might cause, you don't want that friction. You really don't want that friction, because your husband's visa basically depends on these people. So I know it sucks, but you do have to keep in mind that you seeing your husband, these people stand between you and your husband, and it sucks. But that's one of the reasons why you have to be as polite, as professional as possible. I understand, and I've been in similar situations, so I can completely understand. It really does suck, because you're like, everything is good, and it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And for people who do not know, DS5535, it's kind of a newer procedure that was implemented not too long ago. I think probably like a few years ago, maybe less. And what it is if the consul has any reasons to suspect that there is some kind of security issue, threat, whatever, they can refuse the visa, and then they can request additional information through that DS5535, which basically requests, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sorry if I'm mistaken, but I think it is like 15 years of history, basically. It's like employment, where you lived, and like a whole bunch of things. It's 15 years. It's a lot of time, all right? I don't remember 15 years ago, like where I was living or what I was doing, honestly. 15 years ago, it's a long time. So I don't think it's a very, it's not very fair, honestly, but whatever, it is what it is. It's not up for me to decide, but that's what it is. So ideally, they give you this DS5535, and again, it's on the plus side, it's not just a straightforward refusal of the visa. It's kind of a conditional refusal. So we refuse you the visa for now, but fill out this DS5535, submit it back, we will review it, and if everything's good, we will give you the visa. So hopefully they review it and everything is good. Now they say that it should take about 15 days to review it, but in some situations it can take up to a month, and in some situations where they do have to dig a little deeper, it can take up to a few months. But I would recommend waiting at least a whole month and then reaching out directly to the US Embassy that gave that DS5535, being very polite, very professional, and asking them, saying, hey, I had an interview, your husband can call, and tell them that, hey, I had the interview on that date, and you gave me the DS5535, which I submitted immediately. All the information was provided, and I was wondering if you had an opportunity to review it, and when you're gonna give me the response on it. When are you gonna, call me? Because, I'm, I have a wife in US, and she's a US citizen, and I want to go see her. So, common sense, right? And hopefully, hopefully they respond, at least tell him the time frame. Now, if they don't, and if it does take more than a month and nothing is happening, there is obviously a few avenues that you can take yourself, and that would be, obviously you can reach out to an attorney and seek legal help. But even more so, what I would recommend doing is reaching out to local elected officials. That can be, state senator, that can be governor from your district, or whatever kind of state representative that you can find. Do the research on these people. You are a U.S. citizen, so you lived here for, I'm assuming you lived here for quite some time, so you should be familiar with your local politics and who is who and who is doing what and who stands for what. Do the research. They all have websites, and most of them that do help with issues like this, with immigration related issues, they do mention it on their website. Reach out to them, explain the situation, say that you are a U.S. citizen, say that you're trying to you see your husband. I mean, come on, this is common sense. What's going on? And explain the situation. Explain that there was already steps taken to resolve the issue directly with the U.S. Embassy. And that's why it's important to resolve the issue first directly, because if you don't and you do go above them, a lot of times that next step that you're taking, they might tell you, hey, did you try to resolve the issue directly with the U.S. Embassy? And if you're like, no, it's kind of like step back. You don't want to do it. You want to have all of the, documentation and whatever. And obviously I would recommend first calling, but it would also be nice to send an email just for the sake of having the record of look, I've made an inquiry, and nothing happened. There's also National Visa Center, NVC. You can reach out to them. They're from the Department of State, so they are working with U.S. embassies, and you can ask them, say what's going on. So I really hope you can resolve this. It's a tricky situation and kind of unfortunate. It's really it sucks, honestly. It sucks that they make people jump through these hoops. A wife, a U.S. citizen, and then they are giving this hard time to the husband. What are they doing now? What are they trying to break apart the family? It's messed up. But this is the world that we live in today. This is the system that we have to deal with, unfortunately. Okay, let's move on to the next question from Sun and Stars. USCIS approved our I-130 application September 8th. Nice, Sun and Stars, congratulations. That's awesome. That's awesome news. Really good to hear. Wow, awesome. Well, now on to the I think you guys had so now your next step is NVC, becoming documentarily qualified. I don't remember if you guys were in an immediate relative or not, but hey, it's the next step. So congratulations. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so that's from Medina. Sorry I couldn't get to your question faster than that. I apologize. Sometimes it does take me a little bit longer, and I really hope you find my answer helpful, and I really do wish you a resolution with this. Please do come back to this channel once you know a little bit more about the situation, once your husband reaches out to the US Embassy and update, because I really hope it's resolved for you. Okay, let's move on to the next one from Helena Roos. Says, thanks so much. You're very welcome. Glad you found this helpful. Moving further to the next one from The Builders Inc. If you have been documentarily qualified and been waiting for more than a year, simply hire a lawyer and you will have an interview date in less than 3 months. This is The Builders Inc. This is unfortunately a fake information, because the immigration attorney, they cannot change the priority date, okay? And the interviews are scheduled by the priority. So if you're in one of the family preference categories where you are dealing with the backlog, there is really not much that you can do. You cannot even request the expedited processing because really you need to be documentarily qualified and your immigrant visa needs to be available. in order to request the expedited processing. So if you are in the immediate relative category and if you are already documentarily qualified, yes, you can hire an attorney and then they can submit an expedited request for you, which you could do yourself, honestly. Well, you can do, I mean, it's just an email. You can just send it yourself. You don't need to pay thousands of dollars for this. But if you're in the family preference category, that's where people wait for years for their interview, then the attorney is really not going to do anything for you. So the builders thing, this is fake information. I'm going to get rid of this comment because it's just fake information. Why spread misinformation? Let's move on to the next one. Probably our last comment for today from Lucy Selaire 5112. Good day, sir. My portal is open. Can a joint sponsor fill in the form separately for an applicant as their joint sponsor? Okay, so whenever it comes to, and I don't think it was you asking this question, but I did have a similar question a few days ago. Whenever it comes to the joint sponsor, the requirement is that you have to submit the main sponsor the petitioner sponsor. They have to submit it through the NVC portal, and then they can request from the NVC, they can submit a request through the portal to add the joint sponsor, and the joint sponsor, the affidavit, has to be submitted through the same portal. All right, it's very, very important. It will be a separate affidavit of support. Yes, you will have to print it out, you will have to give it to the joint sponsor, they will have to fill it out and sign it and all of that, and then they will have to give it back to you. You will have to scan it and you will have to upload it to the NVC portal, the same NVC portal where the main sponsor is. So it's all in one package. It's not like a whole separate procedure. It is a separate document, but it is part of one application package, if I may say so. So hopefully that makes sense. But thank you very much, everyone, for asking your questions. Hopefully my answers were helpful today. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments below. Just make sure not to respond to my comment within your comment, because YouTube does not send me those notifications. Just submit it as a separate comment. So thank you very much for watching as always. God bless, and I'll see you all in the next video.